I'm going to show you how I just cut my rent bill pretty much in half. I'm going to give you an example of a deal that I just did to do so, and this is how I'm going to help stay cash positive over the next few months during this economic collapse. A lot's been changing. If you are an owner to Airbnb, you will get value from this video as well, so stick around. But those rental arbitrage types here who are really shaking about their rent payments, this is going to be sick. Let's jump in. All right, welcome back, Airbnb family. So I want to show you something that I just pulled off. And this is the third time I've recorded this video. Video number one, I had an idea. Video number two, the government released a stimulus package that pretty much made it possible countrywide to pull this off. Number three, I've negotiated this deal and I've pulled this deal off to save money on rents, so it works. I've proven it. The government released a $2 trillion stimulus package that has some heavy implications for rental arbitrage and for owners in the space. And we're gonna cover my negotiating technique that I used with the landlord to get my rents reduced. And it's mutually beneficial. It's gonna be sick. While I talk, I'm gonna make some coffee. I had one of our YouTube subscribers came to the event in Chicago while I was speaking at and brought me a bag of coffee, and this is my last bit of the coffee, and I'm gonna have it while I'm talking to you guys. So let me explain what's going on while I do my overpour. The way that mortgages work is you have a principal payment inside of your mortgage. You also have an interest payment. You also have your taxes rolled into it. You also have your landlord insurance, property insurance rolled into it, etc. There's a lot that goes into a mortgage payment. All properties that we can, well, not all properties, but many properties are leveraged with a mortgage. Now these could be first-time homeowner deals, these could be multifamily units, these could be investment property loans. As long as the deal is like a normal deal, it's a federal-backed mortgage. And the government released as part of their stimulus, that anyone who has a federally guaranteed mortgage is capable of doing something called a forbearance, regardless of pretty much who your loan provider is. The government's saying countrywide, these are possible. You can do it for 4 months, and you can even extend it another 4 months if it's like a quadruplex or less. If you have a multi-unit, like 5 or more, you can have your forbearances 30 days at a time, and you pretty much have to keep reapplying. The difference is with these 4 units or less, all you have to do is affirm you've been affected. You don't have to provide proof. With the forbearance for 5 units or higher, you have to show documentation. And there's something that we can do for these big apartment complexes in this case. So the catch here with this forbearance, and yes, this actually does start to affect renters. I know I'm talking about a mortgage, which you renters didn't even think was necessary, but knowing how this works is important to making this pitch, because you're going to talk to your landlord and know as much about this as he's going to, is the point. So the thing about taking a forbearance is it doesn't make everything just free for 4 months. It means you don't have to pay your mortgage for 4 months, but you still have a loan. If that loan's a $200,000 loan, it still will accrue interest. So there's still a cost of debt, like tagging him every single month. There's still property taxes that have to be paid until the government says that they're going to waive property taxes due to this, which could happen one day. There's also insurances and stuff like that that they have to pay. All of these are still due, even though the mortgage doesn't have to be paid. There's still a monthly holding cost for that landlord. And this is the number that we're going to want to get down to the bottom of, because it's going to allow you to negotiate this. And you want to be proactive about this. Your landlord may not be telling you that he plans on taking a forbearance. And if he did not tell you that, he's going to take 100% of your rent. And he's going to get basically extra cash flow for the month, and he'll pay the things that he has to pay, but he could just stack up a bunch of cash if he wants to kick it all down the road, and he could get this huge benefit where he's got, like, at the end of 8 months, if your rent was $2,000 a month, now he's got basically like $16,000, and he didn't pay $1 of mortgage, and he just has to pay his property taxes and then pay his like insurances and stuff. So he can come out like super ahead if he did it without you. So what I want you to do is be proactive. So I pulled this off, and here's how this worked. I made a phone call to a landlord and say, hey, I want to pay you to take a forbearance. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I want to pay you to take a forbearance. Hear me out. The pitch went as such. I said to this landlord, I understand forbearances are made pretty much applicable countrywide right now due to the stimulus package, and I understand that it's not free for you to do a forbearance. I understand that there's still some inherent costs. What I would like to do is I'd like to offer you holding costs plus 10%. And here's the thing here, is I understand we're both leveraged. You have a loan, I have a lease, we're in this together. And of course, you don't want me defaulting, right? You want us to have a strong relationship, and I found a way to do a net positive. Let's say your holding costs are, $800 a month, where my lease is supposed to be $1,500 a month. What I'd like to do is I'd like to offer you that holding cost so you can still pay the interest payment, so that way you're not snowballing interest into principal and then having that interest create new interest. I want to protect you from that. And I want to make sure that all of your other bills are paid. So what I'd like to do is ask you to take a forbearance. I'll pay all of the costs that are not lost in the forbearance. So I'm going to protect you from loss here, and I want to pay you an extra 10%. So that way you still have positive cash flow. I may only need this 2 months, 3 months, but you can take this up to 8 months if you'd like to, and it's your choice to continue to take it. I'd like you just to start the forbearance process, and I would like to ride along with it until the market gets better. And let me show you the numbers of how much that saved me on this one deal. The rents were a little over $11,000, so like $11,500 in rents total. The cost structure for this deal, I'm going to be paying roughly $7,800 total. That's the cost plus 10%. So if you do that math, I am paying about 67% of what I would originally be paying on this deal for the next 3 months. I'm saving, what's 12 and 8? Yeah, basically saving $3,700, $3,800 a month, maybe even more, maybe like almost $4,000 a month just on these rents. So this is kicking $12,000 off of my bottom line. If I did not make this phone call, I would still have to pay that $12,000. That's just the way this works. That's my rent. I agreed to this rent. But what I'm telling you right now is there's an opportunity to wipe it away. The last 2 videos I did, I was saying, well, if the landlord doesn't agree to this, you could probably meet him in the middle. Like, you could make the pitch and say, well, let's defer some of that rent and I'll pay you a split. So let's say, the 50%, like the part that I didn't pay, let's split that in half. I still owe you half of that and I'll just pay it down the road. You could still make that negotiation, but that was just hypothetical. I just really did this deal and I didn't even have to offer to defer a single dollar of the discount that I asked for, because he's still getting 10% positive cash flow on his cost. That's pretty good for him. He's happy about that. So what I want you to understand is this guy did not know what a forbearance was, and he's a landlord. I hit him with it. Time is of the essence. It's brand new. I want you to take advantage of it. In addition to that, when you educate your landlord and are proactive like this, they're going to be much more open-minded because you just gave them like a lever to pull. And landlords love leverage and they love pulling on levers. The cool thing about this, as you explain this to him or her, by not paying a mortgage for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, they can add those payments to the very end of their loan. And as long as you've paid their interest payments, they have no additional debt. They've just really hit the pause button for 8 months. And for you, it doesn't matter because your rent, you don't get a debt pay down on your rent. So just paying less rent is cool for you because there's no advantages to paying more rent. A landlord or a homeowner, if they pay their mortgage faster, they pay debt down faster. There's incentive for them to pay more. But for you, there's really no reason to pay any more than you have to. So you are really getting full advantage of this. But by paying his holding costs or her holding costs on their mortgage and their home and their taxes and everything along the way, you've just hit the pause button for them, where if they were going to sell the home in 10 years anyway, the fact that they didn't pay this mortgage, actually there's a guy named Meet Kevin who did a deep dive on this, and my friend Sean Ray did a video where he called his bank and did a forbearance and he explains the process. They both did it. Kevin, his channel, he references the time value of money, and they discuss the time value of money in a book I keep recommending called Critical Business Skills for Success. It's an audio book on Audible. You get it like a free credit. It's normally $50. The time value of money is money that you have today is worth more than money that you'll have tomorrow. So having to spend $2,000 right now hurts more than having to spend $2,000 20 years from now because of inflation. See, if your mortgage payment is $1,500 right now and you can pause it and kick it down the road 20 years, $1,500 mortgage payment is relatively less money because of inflation. Wicked. Cool. Right? You can make money on your money and worry about it down the road. And if you ever sell your home, you just wipe out your mortgage and at that point. So this opens up a door for a landlord that you can take advantage of. Now let's talk about the multi-unit property thing. Because here's what gets really wicked. A 5-unit property or bigger can't just do this. They can't just claim that they're in the hot seat. They have to show documentation that they are under some form of duress, like you are. You can be their duress. you reach out to your multifamily like building and say, hey, I want to offer you an opportunity. You guys can do a forbearance 30 days at a time, which could greatly affect the amount of cash that you get to keep because you've got an 80 unit property, 60 of which are full, so you're at 75% occupancy. If you could take all that money from your tenants and not have to pay your bank loan, you'll have way more cash on hand. There's options for you. What I would like to do, because there's an advantage for me here, is I'd like to help you get a forbearance, and I'd like to help you ride that forbearance out as long as possible. I will write you a letter stating that my business as a company leasing from you, if we have to pay all of our lease obligations because we're greatly affected, that'll domino effect, and that will affect your lease obligations, or that it'll affect your loan obligations. I want you to say that my high likelihood of default is going to be the reason why you could default, and that's your documentation for why you need a forbearance. Use me to get a forbearance, and then I would like to offer you cost plus 10. Same thing. Now, the cool thing is the cost plus 10 for you is if you have 5 units in a 100 unit building, you are 5% of their occupancy. So the cost of debt, you owe them cost of 5% of their debt. Right? So because at 100% occupancy, each door would have their own cost of debt. You only have 5% exposure in the building, so whatever their monthly cost of holding their debt is, you'll pay 5% of that. Insurance, property taxes, the mortgage payment, like all the stuff, or the interest for their mortgage, all that stuff. You're gonna pay 5% of the total because you only have 5% of their doors. Then you're gonna pay them an additional 10% of that. The cool thing is the rest, let's say they're 75% occupied, the other 75% that's occupied, they'll still pay rent as usual, and they get this huge cash flow advantage. And cash is king. Not running out of cash right now is the most important thing. And if they do the add method and kick it to the end of their 30-year loan or 35-year loan, you've just done them a great service by helping this happen. Every single month that you could be their reason for forbearance is another month where they get to keep a ton of cash on hand. And a lot of people, they're over leveraged. You are the secret sauce to deleveraging them by giving them more cash. You can help them build up their cash reserves, and they can now be more responsive to the needs of their other tenants. They can be more proactive and say, hey, if you're having a hard time covering rent right now, we can help you out. Because they already have the forbearance, so they can go to their tenants and be the hero here, which is super cool. Both sides have a catch though, and this is the one thing that you don't scream it too loudly, but they might have an objection and you might have to like counter object with like an extra offer. If they're in forbearance, they cannot evict people. Getting a forbearance is equivalent to basically being everybody in the building's on life support, including the owner. So they may want you to like pony up a little extra deposit. Like you might, whatever that forbearance agreement is, you might have to put 1 month of forbearance, the cost plus 10 on extra deposit, and then ride out 4 or 5 months at a discount, and your last month of forbearance is free because you prepaid it. Because then after that, once forbearance is gone, they can get back to evicting people as usual. So this is super powerful. I want you to take advantage of it. And I want to let you all know that there's hosts that are kicking ass in our Hosts of Airbnb Automated Facebook group. There's a guy that just went through his direct booking strategy. He did multiple little videos from his phone. Super maxed out giver guy. And I do want to say that the reason why I did my punk you guys video a couple days ago, and for those of you who cried during the video, like I feel for you because I love being here too, and I would never leave you guys. I was feeling a little playful. Quarantine be like that sometimes, and I just wanted to do something fun, and I got a little trollish, but that video was a call to action. I am not enough. I am one man with one portfolio in one country. I don't see it all. And so I introduced you to a guy that has solutions for the UK in the end of that video. This guy, he's also in the United States, but he's definitely got his direct booking game down strong, and you can learn a lot from him. Any of you other hosts that are good at what you do, start speaking up, please. Help your other hosts. We all need to survive here. You know, we're in this together. And for those of you who thought that this channel was going to go out of business, or that my company was going to go out of business, or that, you know, landlords deserve to go out of business, small business owners deserve to go out of business, that video was targeted to you guys. My goal was to make people who don't like this channel or don't like business owners watch that video with bated breath, licking their chops to hear how I'm done with my YouTube channel. And the joke was on them, not on all of you guys, because I love you guys. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here a lot. We're going to keep this fight up. And you might notice that all the loudness about Brian Chesky, and some of you agree with me, some of you don't, that's cool. But I'm fighting for small hosts who do need the money that they lost from cancellations. CNBC's on top of this. The Information, Business Insider, Forbes. People are writing. I mean, if Wall Street Journal comes out with an article soon, I won't be surprised. What's happened to Hosts is getting attention, it's getting traction, which is journalism is what holds big businesses accountable. We are this small but mighty YouTube channel that got super loud, and now all this stuff is happening because we are advocating for our rights, and we are just loud enough to be heard. So we're gonna continue to advocate for host rights, and we're gonna continue until we win. And because now journalists are on our side too. We're picking up steam. So thank you for watching Airbnb Automated. Get on the phone with your landlords, make this presentation, save yourself some money. I saved 30-something% on this one deal, depending on how people's equity pay down splits are with their mortgages and what their other holding costs are. You could save up to half off your rent, and that could be killer. Big change, big swing between going out of business and staying in business if you get half off your rent. So thank you, and I'll see you on the other side.